Peace, peace. This your host, Selah-Shalom. And this is the Cosmon Teachings in the words of Jehovah and his angel ambassadors from the Cosmon Bible, OAHSPE. And the topic of discussion today is called, The Physical Death is the Spirit Birth. Now, in the Bible, it really doesn't explain the life after death. It really doesn't give you no details about the life after death. While in OAHSPE, it gives you a complete rundown about the life after death, how we progress in spirit after we shed this physical body. Now, the Quran doesn't give you a breakdown of the life after death. The Bible and the Quran may give you glimpses about the life after, but doesn't give you a detailed account. And all you could do is just watch my videos and you can see the detailed accounts I give concerning the life after death and the progression of the spirit life. Progression through the atmospheric planes and then being born into the ether. See, OAHSPE gives you that scope to focus on, while the Bible and the Quran doesn't give you that scope. It talks about heaven, but it doesn't break down that you have to progress through heaven. So have you focused on one specific area of heaven or one plane and not progressing at all? So see, the Bible or the Quran doesn't explain these things, while the OAHSPE gives you a full explanation of these things, like I've been explaining through the vids throughout the years. Now, most people have a problem with the idea of do we live after death? And the reality is that yes, we all live after we shed this physical body. It's cosmic order. Whether you believe it or not has nothing to do with it. It is what it is. If the Creator can allow a caterpillar to turn into a cocoon, and then from a cocoon to a butterfly, that right there is an example of the life, death, and resurrection played out through the butterfly. Now, if the Creator can give the butterfly a perception for humans to see life after death, it's only plain as day that the progression of life is real after death. We see it through the rising of the sun and the setting of the sun. The rising of the sun is like the rebirth, being born. The setting of the sun is like being dead, or waning, or dying. And then the cycle repeats. So we have symbolic examples in nature to show us that there is progression in life after we shed this physical body. Now, a lot of people are skeptic and hold doubt to the life after death. A lot of people do not even believe that you live after you die. To those who deny life after death, OAHSPE has some verses where it touches on that. In the book of Apollo, son of Jehovah, chapter 4, verse 1, it states, "There were men who believed that with death all would be the end to every man. And Jehovah sent his angels to prove man in his folly. And though they saw them, talk with them face to face, many would not believe." So here this verse is just describing those who denied life after death, and how Jehovah sent his angels to prove that you're not in your physical body, but you're alive. But they will not believe, because when they was in corporality, they fashioned their thoughts and their belief that there is no life after death. And then when they crossed over, realizing that they were still alive, they denied that there was in spirit, because they were still alive. But they couldn't determine that the physical flesh had shed. But all that is based off their perception of denying life after death. Now here's another example in the book of Fragapati, chapter 2, verse 20. It states, "But among the Persian nation, none more believes the dead shall rise, nor that spirit is. But that with mortal death there is the end, to which the king hath made a decree, that nevermore shall man teach or preach of a heaven for spirits of the dead, nor proclaim a great spirit, a creator." So here's another example of how decrees could be set through kings on denying the life of spirit. So that's why in the ancient world, especially in the East, you had the belief was concrete thinking. You had to physically demonstrate what you were saying. They didn't believe in the abstract. They believed in the concrete. That's Eastern thought. But this verse is just going to show again how man denied the fact of life after death. Now, here's a couple verses to show that this is a natural order. In the book of Sentences, Son of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 6, it states, God said, when a corporeal cometh forth out of his corporeal body, this is called death. So this verse just describes that when we shed this corporeal body, this physical body, that is called death. And in return is the spirit birth. Again, book of Jehovah, chapter 2, verse 2, it states, Jehovah said, I created the earth and fashioned it, and placed it in the firmament, and by my presence brought man forth a living being. A corporeal body gave I him that he may learn corporeal things, and death I made that he may rise in the firmament and inherit my Etherian worlds. So here it states that death is the spirit birth. So when man dies, he's born in spirit, and then he begins to progress in spirit on the atmospheric planes of the planet. And then after he graduates from the atmospheric planes of that planet into the Etherian realms. Now, another example. Book of Selah-Shalom, daughter of Jehovah, chapter 1, verse 20 and 21, where it states, Selah-Shalom spoke from Jehovah's throne, saying, what is the deliverance of man? Is it from his mother's womb? Is it from the corporeal world and her atmosphere? 3 births have the Father or the Creator given to all men. In the first, man hath nothing to do as to his shaping or timing in his mother's womb. In the second, he hath a little more to do as to directing his course during his mortal life. But for the third, for the higher heavens, he must work for his own deliverance. Verse 21, Selah-Shalom said, 3 kinds of earth deliverance for man created the Creator. First, from his mother's womb, coming crying, blank and helpless. Second, from the tetrets, earthly passions and desires, serious and full of fear. Third, from the enemies of the Great Spirit. So this verse is just giving you an example of deliverance and spirit births. First, starting from a corporeal, and then from a corporeal, when we die, we enter the spirit realm, and we begin to progress in spirit. And then after that, we graduate off the planet into the Etherian realms. That's the scope. That's the sum of our objective. So, with these couple of verses, just to show the OAHSPE is proving life after death. There's no doubt about it. It's not a scratch on the head. It's not a thought. We understand that when we cross over, it's progression. And it continues on. As above, so below. As Tahuti said in ancient Kemet. So, when you put 2 and 2 together, you start understanding these things and realizing that it's a reality. And the examples throughout nature shows us the life, death, and resurrection. Played out through the caterpillar. Becoming a cocoon and becoming a butterfly. The butterfly having wings being symbolic to spirit, being symbolic to take flight, to move around freely compared when he was the caterpillar being bound, crawling on the earth. See that? That's a simple example of the life, death, and resurrection through the caterpillar and the butterfly. So it's not no doubts on our end if there's life after death. So for y'all skeptics who are still skeptic about life after death, maybe you need to widen your research and broaden your understanding and stop being closed-minded. And with that, I'd like to say peace and blessings.